Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello there. My name is Tom, and I'm one half of 1 Hour, One Decision, a podcast where we play a random game for an hour and decide if it's worth playing more. My co-host Chris has been on Side Quest twice before, most recently for Venba. But I'm here because after over a decade of real-world encounters, Matt surprised me as a guest on our podcast. If you want to hear how that played out, check out the 1H 1D episode on Clair Obscure. But I digress. It was a challenge to pick a game to talk about because so many of my favorites have already been covered on other excellent episodes of SideQuest, and I wanted to make sure the game I picked was something special and important to me. Well, I made my decision, and I'm here to praise a game that came out on September 24th, 1997, and had a critical role in shaping my adolescence, but would continue to entertain me for decades thereafter. Perhaps game isn't even the right word, as this piece of PC software was one of the first graphical online virtual worlds, and I suppose the first massively multiplayer online role-playing game, as that very term comes from franchise creator Richard Garriott. I am, of course, talking about Ultima Online. To give some foundation, Ultima was a single-player RPG series developed by Origin Systems, Inc. The series officially began way back in 1981 and had 8 numbered installments and several spin-offs before it was ultimately taken online in 1997. To be honest, my brother and I had never played any of those earlier Ultima titles, but as kids playing video games in that era, we had certainly heard of them. It was actually a recommendation from a friend that brought us to UO, as the game was succinctly called. That friend's recollection of encounters battling monsters with other players in a continuous living world sounded like actual sorcery to us kids, and we were eager to get in on the action. Now consider that this was a time before the MMORPG boom of the early 2000s. So there was no World of Warcraft, no Star Wars Galaxies, no EverQuest, none of the dozens of other MMOs that the initial success of Ultima Online would spawn. This was the time before broadband, and we needed to dial in on our phone lines to AOL servers to establish a connection to the internet before even attempting to launch the game. But when you finally did get all your ducks in a row and got it booted up, you were treated to a pretty epic cinematic, at least for that time. In just 3 minutes, you learned about the world of Sosaria, which was bound to a gem by an evil wizard. Fortunately, that wizard was slain by a stranger from the stars. Unfortunately for that world, it would remain connected to a now shattered gem, and each of those crystal shards would carry forth its own initially identical, but now diverging, copy of the original world. That's a pretty cool way to use the in-game lore to explain multiple servers, right? In fact, if you've ever heard the term shard used in reference to a game server, you can thank Ultima Online for that. Past that cutscene sat a treasure chest that opened into the shard selection and character creation. Long before James Cameron or Airbenders would popularize the word, my brother and I each created our own avatars to explore our first online virtual world. We had to share an account, and even justifying that recurring expense was a challenge, as the concept of paying monthly to maintain access to a game you had already purchased was a strange new concept, especially for parents. So the two of us would sit side by side, often for hours, at our shared computer, and take turns playing our avatars, navigating them through these fantastical, isometric environments, hunting animals and fighting monsters, but also doing much more mundane things, like chopping trees for wood or mining rocks for ore to smelt into ingots to forge into armor. To put it in terms for a modern audience, it was our Minecraft, and like Minecraft or Roblox or any of the myriad of modern sandbox-style games it would spawn, it was incredibly absorbing. UO received a lot of notoriety for its completely open player versus player system. Some relished that freedom, others abhorred it. But what it meant for two kids spending their weekends and summers playing online with strangers from all over the world was an unpredictable mix of benevolent patrons and dangerous villains. Would that other player help you take down a sudden surge of undead? Or would they hit you with a well-timed energy bolt and loot your corpse? For us, it gave the game serious stakes, unlike any other game we had ever played. We'd get super excited when things went well, and super frustrated when they didn't. Sometimes an in-game tragedy would cause one of us to quit for a bit, but we always seemed to find our way back. After those early years with my brother, I would end up playing again with college friends, then again with a girlfriend, then a number of different times with various internet chums. I even met a fellow on a cruise that was similarly a lifelong fan of UO, and we instantly bonded over tales of our times in Britannia. The game would evolve over the years, with multiple expansions and even a switch to a 3D client. In fact, it blows my mind that now, 28 years later, this online game continues to be alive and kicking on official licensed servers. That said, I should note that most of my returns to UO over my lifetime have been thanks to a myriad of player-run shards that sought to capture the feel of those early years under OSI, before development passed to Electronic Arts, then to Mythic Entertainment, and finally to Broadsword. Each handoff morphing the experience into something increasingly different than its origin, pun intended. If you listen to 1H1D, you know that I tend to shy away from vast open-world titles, and I think some measure of that is because Ultima Online stole my heart a long, long time ago, and most of the modern sandboxes, while still fun, fail to reignite that spark. That all said, if you want to take a peek at where this classic game is today, I hear you no longer need to buy the client or even pay monthly for access. So when you combine that with the ubiquitous nature of high-speed internet, I'd say the barriers to entry have been significantly reduced from ours back in 1997. If you want to play a version of the game that emulates my experience in the late 90s, though, you'll need to work a bit harder. But I bet you can find more than a few active and healthy player-run shards if you go looking for them. I hope you found this interesting, or at least informative. And if you want to hear my thoughts on modern games, you can get about a sitcom's worth of that every week by following 1 Hour, One Decision on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks, everybody. Happy gaming.
Do you have a gaming subscription service like Xbox Game Pass or a crazy backlog and don't know what to play next? Well, 1H1D might be for you. Join me, Chris, and my college buddy Tom as we play a random game or a requested game for an hour and decide if it's worth playing past that hour. We go over the good, the bad, and maybe some little tidbits about the development you might not have known. Got 30 minutes? Give us a try, and if you like it, throw us a 5-star review. Try something new. You never know what might be your next favorite game.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.